Welcome, everyone. My name is Joan Marques, and I serve as a professor of management at Woodbury University and in the School of Business, but I also serve as the dean of the school. I am also an alum from this school, so very proud to be here among all of you and very happy that you all took the time to come and um, be part of this presentation. I'm very honored. I know that you have a lot of options to be at on a Thursday afternoon at 4 o'clock or whatever the time is where you are. So it is a huge honor that you're here. What I have today, and I will, if you allow me, start sharing my slide, my presentation. What I have today is a presentation about a topic that mesmerizes all of us, that we're all very interested in, AI. Now, I do not claim to be an expert in AI by any way, because I have to be very honest, full disclosure. Last year in February, I had no experience with AI. I had heard of ChatGPT, but that was all. And then I went to a conference, a dean's conference, an AACSB dean's conference, because our school is AACSB accredited. And that is where I saw that almost all the presentations were about the promotion that we have to gravitate to AI. They knew that deans of schools are usually the last to jump in, where students are already ahead of the game, where maybe faculty are ahead of the game. Deans are usually the last to catch up. And so the word was, you gotta learn AI. You gotta jump on the bandwagon. You gotta start writing your reports with the help of AI. You really have to learn a little bit about it. And they said, even if it's 10 minutes a day. And so I thought, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. Now I have to say, I graduated since then because I do not use 10 minutes a day to AI, but sometimes 10 hours. And that is maybe a little bit too much. So sometimes when you get really mesmerized with something and you get really in the depth of a project, you get so carried away. I think my colleague Wendy knows about it, this infamous rabbit hole that you can sometimes get into, and then before you realize it, it's midnight or the next morning. Anyway, so I'm not going to tell you the wisdom about AI, because I think we're all in different stages of knowledge about AI, but we are mesmerized about it. And what I want to basically focus on more today is how we should lead ourselves and how we could lead others in the age of AI. So my focus will be mainly on integrating human wisdom with technological development. I'd rather use development rather than disruption, because I don't necessarily agree that it is disruption that we're facing now. There is development that sometimes can be experienced as disruption. So here's a central question that I want to post. As AI handles more cognitive tasks, what becomes uniquely human in leadership? It is so easy to give it all away. And AI is so smart and so fast. So we need to really dwell on that question. What becomes uniquely human in leadership? There are a couple of facts that I want to put in front. Organizations are racing toward AI adoption. And we see at the same time that employees feel increasingly disconnected, because the speed is higher than what they were used to in the past. And of course, the fear is very vividly present that you may not have a job tomorrow or next year if you don't do it, if you don't learn enough, or if you don't, jump on the bandwagon. Another fact is we need a framework that preserves human dignity. That I think is very important. Preserves human dignity while embracing technological progress. So I first thought, let's take a little dive into the business landscape, the global business landscape. Let's quickly see what's going on with AI in the world, because we need to set the stage, right? And so I took a dive in different sources. As you see at the bottom of the slides, you see the resources that I used. How is AI reshaping the global business landscape? If we look at only 2024, almost 2 years ago now, a year and a half ago, $391 billion was the global AI market value already at that time. So imagine how far we are now. At that time, 72% of companies were using AI globally. And the projection is that 15.7 trillion will be contributed in this AI economy by 2030, $15.7 trillion. So there is no stopping this. The industries that are leading AI adoption, there are no strange revelations here. Healthcare, and I can't say that anything is negative here because I understand that in healthcare, for instance, the meticulousness, the precision that AI can accomplish, very often the human hand and the human eye cannot necessarily accomplish. So I understand that it's very important. And we see that, healthcare has reported 36.8% annual growth, and you see what fields. Manufacturing, 77% using AI solutions. Financial services, 71%. Retail, 63%. And then we shouldn't forget transportation, IT services, and legal. So everybody is jumping on the bandwagon when it comes to AI. And you can't blame them because we'll go in a while in the next slide, not this one that we're seeing now, why companies are using AI. And that's actually a no-brainer. But this is an interesting piece that I found. We are all very scared about the fact that jobs get displaced. And yes, 85 million jobs were reportedly displaced by 2025. However, the reports also said that 97 million were created. 97 million went into the creation of new jobs, 97 million people. And here's the thing. Of course, it is a specific field. What is most at risk is listed under the 85 million job displacement: data entry, customer service, basic programming, administrative tasks. Mostly the repetitive things are easy to replace. The growing demand is in areas where we still have to catch up. AI specialists, we don't have enough of them in the world. Data scientists, prompt engineers, AI compliance officers, all those things are basically the newer jobs, and human beings are finally catching up on those. If we look at global leadership in AI, it is not America alone. America, yes, when it comes to, leading in innovation and venture capital and foundation models, we are the leaders with 109 billion in 2024. It's more now. But if we look at what China has accomplished, 150 billion in national funding, those are the people they're leading in patents, in smart cities, in the manufacturing deployment. India has its compound annual growth rate at 47 when it comes to AI. They're the fastest growing AI talent pool. And Europe, we know Europe, as always the police, I would say, when it comes to meticulousness. So Europe leads in regulation. Europe has a strong leg in industrial AI, in healthcare governance frameworks, and the like. Now, why do businesses embrace AI? That is, as I was saying earlier, self-explanatory. There's a lot of productivity increase when it comes to using AI. That is the number one reason that businesses will bring up. The productivity increases, and if I am in competition with others, what should I do? Of course, I should continue. 38% profitability boost, and you save a lot of time. Don't think that 1 hour of daily time saved per employee is a small number. Imagine companies that have 5 and 10,000 employees. If they can claim 1 hour per day for 10,000 employees, that's 10,000 hours that they're saving, times how many per year. So there are a lot of benefits, and it's the repetitive tasks. It is the decision-making with data. It is the customer experience that all benefits from AI. And, yes, companies can gain a competitive advantage. This is nothing new that I'm sharing here. There are a lot of challenges with AI, so a lot of advantages and challenges. Of course, we know that people are worried about their jobs. People fear that they will lose their jobs in the next 3 years. 52% are concerned about that. And then there's another challenge that we're facing, and that is the skill gap. So while companies are racing toward more AI, they also find that they do not have enough skilled people to handle that, to lead the process. 50% of businesses lack AI skilled professionals. So this is a severe issue. And then we have some other issues that we're dealing with, like security, you know, or regulatory uncertainty. We still don't know. It's still a little bit of a wild west. And then this bias and fairness issue, I call this garbage in, garbage out. That, it depends on who the developers are of your AI. And we all know this particular case of Amazon that had a tool to hire people and they had to scrap it. This was all the way in 2018 because it was a sexist tool. And it was not maliciously created that way, but it was created by males. And the input was basically where this tool was starting to reject anybody who came from, for instance, a female school or had done jobs that were typically female. Those people were rejected. So they later found out that the tool was doing that based on what was inserted in it. So these are the things that I'm talking about when I say it is still a little scary, because there are certain people, a certain elite group that has most access to the creation of these tools. And if we let bias run rampant, we are basically perpetuating stereotypes in the world, which is for me a major concern. So if we're looking ahead at the future of AI, by 2030, the prediction is that 90% of customer interactions will involve AI and 60% of jobs will require AI skills. So that means we all better get ourselves a little in gear there. And we need to keep in mind that AI is not replacing business. It is redefining it. The success will go to those who adapt, who upskill, and who use AI responsibly. Now we're getting to basically my point in this presentation. So I gave you a little bit of an overview of the landscape. But if we're now going into what are the pain points that we're dealing with, there are three core tensions here. One is speed versus reflection. This is AI versus human, right? AI moves at machine speed. I mean, I'm continuously mesmerized when Cloud spits out a report that I asked, and yes, my directives have become better and better. But when that report comes out, I look at it and I think, my God, this would have taken me 3 days, and here it is in 5 minutes. And all I have to do now is really examine it, make sure that I tweak it here and there. But it is mind-boggling. At the same time, there's wisdom, and that's a human aspect. And wisdom requires pause. So as leaders in the world of today and tomorrow, we are caught between pressure and responsibility. And it's very important that we realize that. The same thing goes for efficiency versus meaning. That's another core tension, because yes, AI will optimize metrics. At the same time, what we can get is that purpose gets sidelined if we don't watch out. Productivity can mask existential losses. So we should not just go for productivity all the time, but we should see what it is that we're doing and how it benefits the stakeholder groups, not just the internal, but also the external stakeholders, rather than just go in for productivity with no end and with no mental or emotional mindset behind it. And lastly, automation versus human dignity. If you do cost reduction through replacement, you're missing the boat, because technology is not there to just replace human beings. It should amplify the human skills. It should not diminish it. So if we're looking at the cost of mindless AI adoption, what are we seeing? We're seeing more and more ethical failures from the biased algorithms, as the example that I gave, the early example from Amazon, where the algorithm is biased, and it leads to a perpetuation of situations that we really don't need in the world. What we also can see through poor, mindless AI adoption is that employees get burned out, because the acceleration level is so high that it's very difficult for them to keep pace. and the whole spirit or soul is gone, and you get loss of organizational purpose and soul. And so that white banner that you see here has the word of what I mainly study, and that is workplace spirituality. Nothing religious in this game here. But let me read that sentence for you. AI adoption without wisdom frameworks correlates with decreased workplace spirituality, reduced employee well-being, and diminished sense of meaning. Actually, all of that is workplace spirituality. It's not talking about you are a Christian and I am a Muslim and I am a Buddhist and I am a Jain or whatever. It has to do with we are all human beings. We are all spirits together, and we want a sense of belonging, and we care about each other, and we're compassionate and we're empathetic. And that can get lost if we allow AI to take over. So the solution now is not to reject AI, but it is to lead with contemplative wisdom traditions that center on human dignity. And so I came up, well, I studied for my second PhD, for my second doctorate, Buddhist psychology. Again, not from a religious perspective, but from a psychological perspective. And one thing that I really love about Buddhism is the Four Noble Truths. And those truths are as simple as they come. It says, truth number one, suffering exists. We all suffer. And I'm not talking about the pain on my leg now, or the pain in my hip, or the pain at the back of my head. Suffering exists. Now, suffering has a cause. What is the cause? Usually it is something that we want and can't get, or something that we want to get rid of and can't get rid of. So it is aversion or attraction that sometimes causes suffering, that all the time causes suffering. It's that dichotomy in our life. We suffer either because we want something that we can't get, or we want to get rid of something that we cannot get rid of. Three, the third noble truth is that suffering can be ended. It's as logical as that. And the fourth noble truth is it can be ended through the Eightfold Path. And the Eightfold Path is just 8 mindsets that we should try to maintain at the same time. It's not that easy, I'll tell you that. But it encourages us to engage as much as possible, to be mindful, basically. So to engage in right view and right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, meaning doing a job that we know at the end of the day that it is contributing positively, right effort, right concentration, right mindfulness. A lot of these terms overlap. So it is a continuous practice of doing the right thing, thinking before you do things. So I took these mindsets from Buddhist psychology, and I used it as a framework. And I said, okay, what can I use here? Let me take a group of these 8 paths, the Eightfold Path. So I took right view, right intention, right action, and right mindfulness, because they really grab it all for you. Right view, if we look at it through AI, it means seeing AI as a tool, not a replacement for human wisdom and judgment. If we're looking at right intention, we should consider it as we should deploy AI to reduce suffering and enhance flourishing, and not just to cut costs. If we're looking at it through the lens of right action, we should say, well, ethical AI governance should be rooted in compassion and non-harm principles. And if we look at it through the lens of right mindfulness, we should maintain awareness and presence amid technological acceleration. We should think before we act. So now I went to this 7-step framework that I created, and I love the term awakened leadership. I wrote about that in 2007 for the first time, and then I wrote a whole slew of articles about it. So now I went into awakened AI leadership. And these 7 steps are what I'm quickly going to pass by you as a proposal. Now, I know some of you may think, well, that's utopian. Are people really going to do that? I'm not saying you should use Buddhist psychology per se. You can use any psychology or any mindset that you feel that will prioritize human dignity and human wellness, because that is what is at stake here. That is what is important here. So let's get into the 7 steps that I'm proposing. The first one is cultivate personal practice. Think before you do things. That's basically what it is. Take every day, even if it's 10 minutes. As you see there, that person sits with his hands behind his head, not having a phone in his hand. He's just sitting there and thinking. And I think we should, as leaders of our life or in our workplace, take these 10 minutes every day before we make decisions and wonder what I'm going to do here, how is it going to benefit or harm my work environment, the work that I do, especially when it comes to AI tools and decisions, because it is so easy to jump on the bandwagon. Why does it matter? It creates space between stimulus and response. And, all you need to do is take a little pause in decision making of AI. It's very important. And if you cannot apply self-leadership, it's going to be hard to apply organizational leadership, because as a person, you need to be able to lead yourself first before you can lead others. And so this exudes, mindfulness and sitting and thinking before you make a decision is very important. But doing it alone is just one thing. You can't. And definitely not when you're going to apply it to an AI installation, a new tool. So that is where I suggest establish ethical guardrails. Make sure that you have a team of people that come together regularly, and don't just have this team be only fans of AI. Also take the people that are a little cautious about it. Make a team, create a team of peoples that have pro and con mindsets, and let them come together on a regular basis. Of course, depending on the size of your organization, let them come together to discuss things. Some organizations are so big that these teams may have to meet once a week, but some organizations can deal with once a month. But evaluate regularly, have an AI ethics charter, if you will, so that you can check whether there is any harm done to your workforce. Why does it matter? Well, it prevents blind spots, because the leader may not necessarily see in his or her enthusiasm what it can do to the people. So by having a team behind you, they can help you entertain different perspectives, and they can change the way things happen. Now, step 3 is to assess the human impact. What is this doing to the workforce? Make sure that you're not just calculating return on investment, but also look at the holistic evaluation here. So develop a compassionate AI impact scorecard. Make sure that you train people on a regular basis where it's needed, so that they don't have to become obsolete in the whole thing. Step 4, focus. This may be a perpetuation or an underscoring of the previous statement. Focus on human flourishing. Make sure that, you have a balance in the actions. Tasks that are automated or that can be automated, that's fine. But find out how you can use the human beings that are freed up in ways that they can be utilized in a creative manner, so that they don't necessarily have to be tossed away. This prevents dehumanization. It maintains organizational soul by elevating human work. So you will have to have a matrix there, and what you do is the AI component is more focused on, for instance, it's not, of course, rocket science here, but for instance, AI can handle the repetitive tasks, the data heavy tasks, the routine tasks, and the human beings focus on creativity, empathy, wisdom, all the beautiful things that make us human. Then we go to step 5. In step 5, we think of the break that we as human beings need to have. Create contemplative spaces. I found we once had those on campus at Woodbury. I'm not sure if we still have it, but it is a fantastic tool to give people the opportunity to go sit a place with no devices. You cannot use your cell phone. You cannot come with your computer. You cannot come with your tablet. You just sit for 5 or 10 minutes or a half hour, and you center yourself again. It is more important than we think it is. But I can tell you, for strategic insights, it is the best thing. Because I don't know about you, but when I sit in the middle of the night, or I take my shower in the morning and I stand there without a device, I get the best ideas. And then I can, bring them out to others. So the best ideas come in the silent moments of contemplation. And so I believe that I'm not that unique of a human being. Please, please, please consider this too. Step 6, build reflective capacity. Make sure that you have leaders, a leadership team that supports you in finding out how things are going. Regularly make sure that you can test how people are doing here. I see that we have another guest. Um, make sure that there are mindfulness foundations and AI ethics, that you can engage in compassionate decision making. It can be the same team that we were talking about with step two, or it can be a leadership team, depending on the structure of your organization. But people that are mindful about the blend of AI and human beings, that is basically what I'm getting at. And then step seven, let me see how this is. Yeah. Step seven is that you need to measure what matters. Regularly check how everything is going with your people. Do some surveys now and then to check, if they still have a sense of purpose. Check how they feel with their psychological safety. Check how they feel with the ethical confidence in the organization. These are important things to enhance meaning making. And it's important because if you can measure it, then you can manage it better. So that is basically what my 7-step measure, my 7-step proposal is. Here it is in one little chart. Step one, cultivate personal practice. Step two, um, establish the ethical guardrails. Step three, assess human impact. Step four, focus on human flourishing. Step five, create contemplative spaces where people can sit and relax and do some real deep thinking about, this is the difference between management and leadership. This is where you step away from walking through the forest and saying what tree needs to be chopped versus climbing in the highest tree and seeing if you're in the right forest. That is the creation of the creative spaces. And then 6, build reflective capacity. And 7, measure what matters. So that is basically what I have for you. My call to conscious leadership is, yes, AI is advancing, whether we lead consciously or not. But the question is, will we lead with wisdom? We have an opportunity. Organizations are integrating wisdom with technology. They attract talent, they build trust, they create sustainable value, but we still have a challenge. And the challenge is, what step will we commit to implementing in the next 30 days of, the 7 steps that I mentioned earlier? I think we can start with ourselves and maybe those 10 minutes of contemplating as to when and how and why and in what way to use AI can help us. Because just like you, I am as concerned about the future of our species as others are. And that wraps up my presentation. I'm going to stop sharing.